encircled the city, cutting off food, water, electricity, and medical supplies, while subjugating residential areas, displacement camps, markets, and places of worship to repeated shelling and drone strikes. Earthen burns developed by the RSF and trenches extending over 31 kilometers around Al-Fasher restricted civilian movements and effectively entramped its population. The RSF also launched ground attacks and displacement camps in Al-Fasher neighborhoods, destroying and looting markets. Humanitarian convoy were blocked, and community kitchens providing little food that remained in the city were also attacked, and survivors reported surviving on animal fodder called ambuz, tree leaves, and residual oil. Children and the elderly died from malnutrition. Water systems were damaged and destroyed, forcing reliance on unsafe sources of water and accelerating diseases. Medical services also collapsed. So by the time of the takeover on 25th or 26th of October, only one remaining hospital was functional, but following the RSF entry into Al-Fasher, that facility, El Saudi Hospital, ceased operating. Patients suffering from treatable diseases or moderate injuries died for lack of care. Injured and starved civilians were forced to flee on foot for days without food, water, or medical assistance. That siege was followed by massive displacement. An estimated 100,000 people fled in late October alone, according to United Nations Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator for the Sudan. Many families were separated during their flight, either to increase their chances of survival or amid the chaos of RSF pursuing them on the road and out of the city. Hundreds of children arrived in safer areas without their parents or any family members. So these participants or the survivors described Al-Fasher as a ghost town. Physical destruction was compounded by profound psychological trauma, and survivors reportedly enduring starvation, witnessing family members killed and or raped or subjected to other sexual violence, and disappearance of the loved ones. Many remain desperate, and the knowledge of their whereabouts is still unknown. Their suffering is compounded by the loss of breadwinners in their families, leaving women and children in extreme vulnerability. The culminative effect of prolonged starvation, denial of humanitarian aid and medical care, and restricted movements and targeted violence rendered survival increasingly impossible for the affected communities, creating conditions of life incapable with human survival. Let me pass on to Professor Joy Eziel.
On mute. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much. Yes, continuing our findings, the independent fact-finding mission for the Sudan has concluded that the takeover of Al-Fasher in late October 2025 was marked by mass killings, widespread rape, arbitrary detention, and enforced disappearances committed by the Rapid Support Forces, RSF. Over the course of the 3 days, civilians and those hors de combat attempting to flee were intercepted, separated, and executed at exit points and along earthen burns surrounding the city. Survivors describe men being bound and shot in groups, bodies left unburied along routes, and wounded persons executed at close range. In some instances, women and children were also killed. Verified videos and satellite imagery corroborate accounts of mass killings, including at El Fasher University and the former Children's Hospital, which was converted into a detention and execution site. Hospitals were not spared. At El Saudi Hospital, RSF fighters went word by word, killing patients, doctors, and accompanying family members were killed in large numbers. Survivors reported that over 460 people present in the hospital were executed, and satellite imagery indicates subsequent burning of bodies. Sexual and gender-based violence was pervasive, systematic and ethnically targeted. Women and girls 7 to 70 were subjected to rape, mass and gang rape, and other forms of sexual and gender-based violence, including killings, whipping, beatings, humiliation, forced nudity, and sexual harassment, while being robbed of their belongings, often in front of family members or among corpses. Survivors reported the perpetrators explicitly targeted women from non-Arab communities, particularly the Zagawa, using dehumanizing and examinatory language, with numerous women and girls being raped during the same incident, indicating that the cases documented by the mission represent only a fraction of a wider pattern. Sexual violence was used deliberately to terrorize and destroy the social fabric of the targeted communities. Survivors suffered severe physical and psychological harm, lasting trauma, and in some cases, death, highlighting the extreme vulnerability and gendered impact of the conflict. The mission also documented the widespread forms of torture and cruel treatment, arbitrary detention, enforced disappearances, and extortion. Men and boys were separated from women and children at checkpoints and burns, detained in trucks, shipping containers, and makeshift facilities, and subjected to severe beatings, burning, mutilation, and humiliation. Many remain missing to date. Ransom demands were frequently issued to families, with higher sums demanded based on ethnicity. So the scale, coordination, reputation, and public endorsement of this act by RSF leadership demonstrate that these were not isolated incidents, but part of a planned and organized operation executed through an established command structure. Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen of the press, I pass on to my colleague, Munari Shwama.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair and Professor Azilo. Let me now address what does this pattern that was described by the Chair and Professor Azilo means in law. When we assess the totality of the overwhelming evidence that we gathered, you saw Professor Azilo was talking about killings in particular places that we documented, in locations that we know about. And we assess this overwhelming evidence.
ये चिमनी का डक कहाँ है? ये नए ज़माने की चिमनी है, इसमें डक नहीं होता.
Presenting India's first plug-and-play chimney from Beyond Appliances. No core cutting, no ducting. बस 2 hooks पे चिमनी लगाओ, you're done. Beyond Appliances, engineered to delight.
Consolidation, scale, systematic nature, and cumulative effect of these crimes there is only one possible conclusion. It's an indication of a path of genocide. Our mission found that at least 3 of the underlying acts of genocide have been committed. And any of these acts, if committed with the intention to destroy a specific ethnic, national, or racial group, could constitute genocide. So the 3 underlying acts are killings of members of a protected group, in this case is the Zaghawa and the Fur, causing serious bodily harm, bodily and mental harm, rape, sexual violence, torture, and so on, and deliberately inflicting conditions of life calculated to bring about the physical destruction of the protected group in whole or in part. The Fur, Masalit, and Zaghawa are protected groups under international law, and already the International Criminal Court told us that much. After carefully considering all possible alternative explanations, the mission concluded that the only reasonable inference that can be drawn from the pattern of conduct in and around Al-Fashir is that the perpetrators acted with genocidal intent. This is not a conclusion we reach lightly. It is inferred from the body of evidence as a whole, from the scale and sequence of attacks, from the coordinated mass killings and executions, from the widespread rape, from the starvation, siege, from the pattern of ethnic targeting, and from the statements by perpetrators expressing intent to eliminate and destroy these communities. The risk of further genocidal violence remains serious and ongoing, particularly in the conflict around in Kordofan. Therefore, our recommendations are the following. First, civilians must be protected immediately. We have already recommended the deployment of an international protection force, and this recommendation has been reiterated by the African Union and the African Commission's joint fact-finding mission. There is now an urgent need to translate this recommendation into practice. Second, the Darfur arms embargo must be fully enforced and expanded to cover the entire Sudan. States must prevent the transfer of weapons, ammunition, equipment, financial and logistical support to any party implicated in the violations. Third, meaningful targeted sanctions should be imposed against those who are responsible for the atrocity crimes and against those enabling them. Sanctions must be denied to disrupt the capacity to continue committing these violations. Fourth, and that's really key, unrestricted humanitarian access must be secured and freedom of movement guaranteed for civilians. We don't actually know what is happening to the people of Al-Fashir. Very few of them came out of Al-Fashir right now. So, and we know that it looks like a ghost town. People need to be allowed to leave if they can. Fifth, accountability is essential. Perpetrators continue to commit these crimes because they believe they can act with impunity. There must be full cooperation with the International Criminal Court and serious consideration for additional judicial avenues capable of addressing atrocity crimes, particularly the genocide now committed in Sudan. Six, the survivors must be supported. We saw them. They are in desperate conditions. They must receive sustained medical and psychological support, along with meaningful reparative measures. And seventh, evidence must be preserved, and the fate of the whereabouts of the missing and deterred persons clarified. Investigative bodies, such as our own mission, should be granted access to Al-Fashir and the surrounding areas. Today, the Security Council is meeting to discuss Sudan under the presidency of the United Kingdom. This discussion must translate into concrete action. Council members should use the tools at their disposal to strengthen civilian protection, reinforce and expand the embargo, ensure strict compliance, and advance accountability. Next week, we will be formally presenting our findings to the United Nations Human Rights Council. That council too must respond with clarity and resolve by sustaining independent investigations, supporting protection measures, and reinforcing credible pathways to justice. Sudan has already showed the world the cost of hesitation. There should be no hesitation. The evidence is before us, legal analysis is clear, and the warning signs are unmistakable. The responsibility now lies with states to protect civilians, to prevent further destruction, and ensure accountability before more lives are lost. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, for those important opening remarks. And now we'll open the floor to questions. First, we'll go to those in the room, and then we'll go online. We'll start with Robin from the Agence France-Presse. Please go ahead. Thanks.
Thank you. So we're talking here about genocide, and somebody must be funding this, and somebody must be providing the weapons and the material for this to happen. So my question is very blunt. Who's providing the money and who's providing the weapons?
I think this is a key question, and that is really important to understand the mechanisms in which this is being done. And what I can say at this stage is that it's multiple actors, it's a complex network, and it's expanding. And what we are trying to do is to analyze this complex network, and we'll be reporting on that issue very soon. I think you'll hear from us on this matter soon. What I can also say is that we are engaging with main parties, let's call it like this, main parties, and we hope that they'll understand the message. Enough is enough. We reached the point of genocide now. Enough is enough. And really, we all need to take our responsibilities seriously, and states need to take the responsibilities seriously. You'll hear more about this from us soon.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to some questions online. If you could please identify yourself and the media outlet that you work for. We'll start with Musa from Al Mayadeen TV. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm Musa Al Mayadeen TV based in Lebanon. I have 2 or 3 questions, please. The first one about the number of those killed and how many known Arabs and how many are Arabs in this crime. The second one, do you have specific names of those involved in these crimes? And finally, what about the responsibility?
Have you heard of ChatGPT? Mid-Journey. Or recently self-driving cars. If you see around you, AI, machine learning, data science, they're progressing at a very, very fast pace. And we at Scalers see that as an opportunity. Today, you can actually leverage AI, machine learning tools. You can leverage data science to become much better at your job. You could also actually create a career in each of these fields. You could become a machine learning engineer. You could become a data scientist. While that is great, it is not very clear how do I go about creating a career in data science or machine learning or AI, or how do I leverage this in the work that I do today? If you want to discover that, we are doing a free class. Please come and join us in the free class, and some of this, I promise you, will become clearer to you. If you want to join us, click on the link below.
As you say, you have to look at the human rights mechanism as working in tandem. So the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights has established about 6,000 dead as a result of the 3 days of violence. But in ourselves, we have documented mass killings, summary executions, and so on, involving multiple people. The requirement for genocide is that there must be numerically, is not the most essential element, so long as there are sufficient number of people killed. And I think that threshold has been reached in so far as the requirements, both for definition of genocide, are concerned. But we have documented, and you will see in our report, various killings in various groups, various numbers, sometimes 68 children, and so on, and so forth. Because part of our mandate is to identify perpetrators, and we have identified perpetrators, including those that are in a command position through what we call confidential dossiers investigated. Of course, the report pinpoints to one individual, a notorious individual, Abu Lulu. And I think this is not in any violation of his due process rights, because these are something which is really in the public domain already. But we have compiled, and I think this is in relation to best practices of Human Rights Commission, to document names of individuals, persons of interest, and I think this will be shared appropriately with any international or credible national judicial mechanism that is ready to exercise universal jurisdictions and so on. Again, I think the question of external actors was raised, was responded to by my colleague, and I think the most important thing is to say that we are already now engaging with a number of states, and to put to them the queries that we have concerning either their involvement or their companies or entities or their nationals, and this is ongoing and will be subject to further revelation as we move this investigation. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go next to Alicia from the Spanish News Agency.
Hi, thank you for taking my questions. I wanted to ask, because I saw in your report that you indicate that there has been an escalation from ethnically targeted attacks to acts that can be considered as signs of genocide. So I wanted to know when this escalation happened, and where did you see this escalation, in what signs? Also, I wanted to know if did you detected this targeting of ethnic minorities at the beginning of the war? Was this one of the motivations of the war? And also, I wanted to know if there's going to be any procedure to take this to the courts, or what you.